We talked about Alpine divorce yesterday. I'm talking about it again because this type of situation needs to go far and wide. It needs to span different social medias. It needs to span different medias, and it's gaining traction. So this was printed in the Daily Dot. Yahoo picked it up as well. It says men are allegedly abandoning women on hikes, sparking discussion of the Alpine divorce. And I'm going to share some more stories that I gathered from threads because so many women are telling their stories because, like it says, it's sparking discussion. The concept of Alpine divorce is gaining attention across social media after a woman shared a TikTok claiming that her boyfriend left her behind on a hike. All right, it says, just saw a TikTok of a girl whose boyfriend abandoned her during a hike in the woods. The comments were all about how this is a thing multiple men do. It's so common, it's called Alpine divorce, and there are support groups for it. All I can say is WTF is wrong with men. Why would you ever consider abandoning someone that way? I'm mortified. I did not know that there were support groups for this. What is Alpine divorce? In short, the term Alpine divorce refers to the idea of quitting a marriage by taking a significant other up into the mountains and either leaving them behind and leaving their fate up to chance or fully orchestrating their demise. And people are sitting up here like clutching their pearls at the fact that women don't want to get married or be in relationships or are going to be single by 2030 or whatever the stat is. And then you have people talking about this getting left in different places. T over on X or Twitter says just found out Alpine divorce is a thing and women are recalling being abandoned on hikes in remote areas. Some of y'all need to start toting firearms and using them. I don't know. I went over to threads to collect some stories. So we have the Sage and Spirit saying, since Alpine divorce is trending, let me tell you how my keen intuition saved my butt from being left by an abusive ex in the woods. I'm an avid hiker. I'm well trained in survival, prefer the wilderness to humans. My ex, who did not hike, randomly decided it would be romantic to go hike at one of the local mountains. He picked a precarious route, and when I inquired if he was sure, he became standoffish and adamant that was the route we were taking. Like most things throughout this relationship, something felt wrong. So I made up some excuse about it being easier if we took separate vehicles since all my gear was in my truck already. He didn't like it, but I wasn't going unless I drove myself. The first few miles in were him berating me, the usual things, but then eventually letting slip how I ruined his plan. I asked how I ruined his plan. He states the plan was for one vehicle. Then he stopped and said he had to go to the bathroom. Told me to keep going, he'd catch up. At this point, I'm at a trail junction, one leading to the summit. I'm well prepared and know my best bet to find a group of hikers was to go up. Now concerned as to what his next move would be. Would he try to assault me and leave me for dead? I made sure my protection was accessible, squared up my shoulders like a big girl, and started my ascent. That MF texted me good luck and walked back to his vehicle. I knew his plan was to leave me in the woods all along, and I had foiled it. He picked a trail known for hikers getting lost. It was advanced compared to other routes. I came prepared with proper gear and my own plan. I turned it into one of my best solo hikes, but also could have been worse. Unfortunately, we lived together, which meant having to return to the house and him. And like any seasoned abuser, I made sure I didn't talk. He made sure I didn't talk or leave for several more months after this happened. I'm glad that she did eventually leave. I wonder if she goes into more detail. The Dirkmeister says, learning about this trend is disturbing me to my bones. I have no words except rage for the men who are willing to do this and sorrow for you women who have endured this. Glad you kept your wits about you. F the patriarchy. And the Sage in Spirit says, this was almost a decade ago for me. So to see this trending makes me sad for anyone else that has ever been trapped by an abusive partner. Sunset Park Cat says, you ruined my plan was such a head F for me. It started with normal things like a surprise date, but as things got worse, I realized he was always planning things on multiple levels and manipulating multiple people at once and couldn't ever just live or choose or move with integrity. Everything is always a plan with abusers. The Sage in Spirit says, extremely calculated. I Freeze Time says, I don't understand how people can be this way. Maybe I'm naive. If he didn't like you, why not just end it? Why abuse someone else? That is terrible. This is a whole nother post. This is Government Cheese saying, leaving a DV situation even years later means I have typed and deleted a dozen posts related to this and am resorting to leaving a very vague post here because he's still around. If you're going through it right now, I see you. Don't go on the hiking trip with him. All right, we have someone named Wallace Sean's Lisp saying, my Alpine divorce wasn't a breakup. It was my father, and it happened over and over again. The first time when I was about 6, we'd be biking, and then without warning, he'd just pedal away. I'd struggle to keep up, but I was a small child on a bike with 12-inch tires, and he was on a road bike, so he outpaced me in a blink. I'd have to find my way back to where we parked alone and terrified. He also did this hiking and skiing. When I made it back to the car or lodge, he'd just nod. I didn't express how afraid I was. I understood that I wasn't allowed to be. I understood that his respect and therefore his love was conditional on my unconditional bravery and resourcefulness. I became hypervigilant about my surroundings, always planning where I could sleep if he left without me, what was nearby to make shelter, what I could use to make my way out, what plants were edible and in season. He told me he did it to teach me independence. Later, when I inevitably got into abusive relationships, he threw it in my face as though his doing that to me was supposed to have inoculated me against maltreatment, as though it ought to have made me so tough and self-assured that I'd never accept abuse. And the fact that I did was clearly evidence of my disease, as he called it. This isn't nearly all of what he perpetuated, of course. Anyway, he doesn't speak to either of his adult children and hasn't met 2 of his grandchildren. Neither of his children went to the hospital when he had a life-threatening illness. Yet he remains a central figure in the Al-Anon community in Seattle, where people fawn over his wisdom, listening to him speak about things like making amends for wrongs committed and living a life in radical honesty. Go understand. It took me a decade plus, but both my sister and I managed to put ourselves right and end the cycle of abuse in our own lives. I'm very proud of us. It's not all men. I'm married to one of the best ones in the game, but it damn sure is a lot of them. And in my experience, most of them seem to worship the worst of them. Now let's move to this post from this woman named Danny. She says, the Alpine divorce trend really brought back some memories that I want to share for everyone's safety. I work part-time at a ski resort in Verano as an interpreter, and I can't even tell you the amount of times I've had to translate for injured people that would not have otherwise been injured if they weren't left alone at the top of the mountain. Many times their more experienced partners will drag, then leave complete beginners at the peak, and they have to figure out a way alone to come down the slopes, resulting in many avoidable accidents like strains, fractures, dislocated knees, broken shins, and even broken rib cages. Never ever leave each other behind and always wait for the other person. If you are the more experienced skier or snowboarder, please watch your partner from behind safely. It's always heartbreaking to see them try to reach their partner from a stretcher to no answer. But this is if it wasn't any malintent. Some of these people have the intention on letting their partners get hurt or worse, die. So this is good for somebody that might be more experienced taking a novice out. This doesn't help anybody that's just out here being malicious or the victim of somebody that's being malicious. All right, we got one more divorce story. She says, here's my Alpine divorce story. My partner and I had a boat that we stayed on in the Bahamas during the winter. We kept the boat in a small anchorage off Manjack Cay and got supplies off Green Turtle Cay. He was upset and wanted to teach me a lesson. I got out the dinghy and he sped away. He left me at the dock with just my bag. Luckily, I had my passport. He went back to the boat, pulled up anchor, and left me to figure out how to get back to the States. This picture goes with so many of these stories. Whole man disposal. Every day, every single day, there is something to report on where women are just unsafe. Girls are unsafe. You see that there are dads doing this, there are boyfriends doing this, there are husbands doing this. And it's not just hiking, it's taking people out on boats and leaving them. It's ridiculous how much women have to do, how much they have to go through, and all of these different things. Is it any wonder some women are just simply opting out and saying, it's not worth it? Anyways, keep chiming in, keep sharing these stories, keep letting other people know about this so they can keep their head on the swivel and know and understand that these things, these people, these monsters are out there.